Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. So we're going to be doing an Operation Right Home sketch number 196, and it's going to be right here. And you can pause here, get your measurements, anything that you want to add a mat to that doesn't have a mat. I always add 1/8 inch to whatever mat that I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. I have everything kind of pre-cut. And before we started, I used my Distress Oxide inks and made the focal image you see there with the leaves. And I'm just going around some of my edges because my trimmer, um, for whatever reason, I changed it. But I guess because I've been doing so many cards and stuff lately, it's actually already starting to wear down. So I'm getting little fuzzies. So that's why I'm using the little sanding block from Kaisercraft to go over all the edges and get rid of those. So for my base, I always start with a mat that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then my pattern paper here that I'm putting on top of it is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And I usually start, I want to say, all of my sketches with that. You can build right up on top of your card base, but I like adding the pattern paper because I think it just gives it a little more oomph. Because sometimes the pattern or whatever you're doing, sometimes I think it's kind of small on a wide open card, and unless you want all the white space. If you want white space or whatever the base of the card is, then go ahead and do that. But I always like using, more of the pattern. So once we get this attached, we're going to go ahead to the next piece, which is the focal image. Now on the sketch, the white piece, I measured 3 1/4 by 2.5. And for the mat, instead of doing a quarter of an inch bigger, I did the eighth of an inch. So it was 2 3/8, not 2 3/8, 3 3/8 by 2 5/8. I know it gets a little confusing, but you're just going basically an eighth of an inch bigger than what they have on the actual sketch itself. And then a lot of times people do ask me, why do I use both the ATG and the art glitter glue? And really what it is gives me time, because sometimes you don't always put things down straight and you want to have the ability to pull it back up. And ATG tape, it has a tendency when you put it down where you don't want it to hold like nobody's business. So I always use it to help me have time to lift up, move the paper where I need it, whatever the situation may be. And then I also know that on some of the edges where I might not get my ATG tape, that it's going to be secure and lay down nice and even. So in the ephemera kit for the paper collection, that came in the kit, they had one of the square cards, and I think it measured right at 1.5 by 1.5. So for the mat, I just went to 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. Now, and if the eighths are a little bit too confusing for you, then go ahead and do the quarter. So if it's 1.5 by 1.5, you can make it 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 for the mat. It'll just have a bigger border as far as your mat is concerned. So on the back of this, once we got it all put together, I'm just using some of my foam tape that was next to me here. It's the thin strips from Darice. And usually I would save these for something like a shaker card or, something small. But they have worked in a pinch, considering I didn't have my other foam tape by me. And there you have it. There's your sketch. Now, on the sketch itself, the strip that went across the middle, it didn't have a border. But for me, I like the border because it gives it just that little bit of more weight. And I like the definition, especially when I'm using multiple patterns. Now I'm going to take the black Nuvo drops and put 3 at the bottom. And I already did that to the one that I kind of used as my play. This is the same thing. The only thing is I did a strip sentiment instead of the square, but it still has very similar qualities. And I also did the 3 Nuvo drops at the bottom. So here we have the close-up of the 2 different options, similar in that they have the same focal image using the a leaf stamp and the Distress Oxide ink in the vintage photo. But even something as simple as this, you can change it up by, changing the focal image or changing where you put the sentiment of the card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm going to have at the very end links to previous sketch videos. I will have links to down below to scrapbookingwithme.com where I get the kits from. You can be a part of the monthly kit club where it's $39.99 and that's including the shipping. So that's all you pay is the straight $39.99. And each month the kits are different. It's really exciting, and we try to change it up. I do a lot of the picking for the kits, and I try to make it so that if you're a card maker or you're a scrapbooker, you'll find something within the kit that you can be creative with. So once again, thank you guys, and I hope you have a great day.